In the Second Age of Middle-earth, where shadows crept subtly among the splendor of Eregion, a singular relationship formed, one destined to shape the fate of the world. Celebrimbor, scion of Feanor, stood as a beacon of craftsmanship and vision. Yet, in his pursuit of excellence, he forged a pact, willingly, with a stranger who claimed to bear gifts of wisdom. This stranger, Annatar, the Lord of Gifts, was none other than Sauron, veiling his true malice in a guise of fair speech and noble purpose. Celebrimbor, instead of succumbing to manipulation, turned against his teacher before the forging of the Rings of Power. What ripple effects would shudder through the history of Middle-earth? Sauron, adopting his form and Annatar, entered Eregion around the year 1200 of the Second Age. He captivated the Noldorin smiths with promises of untapped power and knowledge. His timing was precise. He exploited the natural thirst of the Noldor for mastery over the physical world, a legacy of their exile from Valinor. Celebrimbor, proud but eager to carve his legacy apart from the shadow of his grandfather Feanor, saw in Annatar a rare ally. They labored together, their craft culminating in the creation of 16 Rings of Power by approximately 1500 of the Second Age. Yet Sauron's guidance was always two-edged, for even as he taught, he gleaned knowledge of their arts, knowledge that he would twist to create his dominion, the One Ring. Let us imagine a scenario where Celebrimbor, shrewd and perceptive, uncovered Sauron's duplicity before the crafting of the One Ring in 1600 of the Second Age. Perhaps through whispers of Gil-galad and Lindon, who had already rejected Annatar, or through the growing unease in his own heart, Celebrimbor chose not compliance, but resistance. Instead of forging the rings under Sauron's guidance, Celebrimbor might have used his unparalleled skill to create counterforces, artifacts of protection, not domination. Such works could rival the Three Rings in purity, attuned to preservation and healing rather than control. These would bolster elven realms like Lindon, Lothlorien, and Eregion against the inevitable storm. Had Celebrimbor betrayed Sauron, the Dark Lord's plans would face an unthinkable setback. Without the ring's distribution among dwarves and men, Sauron would lack the tools to ensnare them in his web of deceit. This single deviation could splinter the trajectory of the Second Age. Imagine a united resistance, a coalition of elves, dwarves, and Númenóreans, empowered not by suspicion but trust, with Celebrimbor at its heart. The Great Invasion of Eriador in S.A. 1695, which saw the destruction of Eregion and the death of Celebrimbor, might have been preempted, shifting the balance of power in favor of the Free Peoples. The dwarves of Celebrimbor might have stood as allies, their gates wide to elves fleeing Sauron's wrath. Tolkien himself would have marveled at such speculation, for his world thrives on the interplay of free will and destiny. Celebrimbor's tragedy lies in his flawed trust, echoing the broader themes of betrayal and redemption throughout Arda's history. His story parallels Aule, the Valar who created the dwarves out of impatience for Ilúvatar's plan, but who repented and submitted. Celebrimbor, however, lacks such foresight. His brilliance becomes his downfall. Yet, Tolkien reminds us that even the worst evils can serve a greater good. Celebrimbor's mistake allowed for the creation of the One Ring, but also the Three, which would preserve Middle-earth's beauty during its darkest hours. Would a proactive Celebrimbor, armed with moral clarity, have allowed this paradox to unfold? The tale of Eregion stands as a pivotal chapter, one where choices reverberate through millennia. What if Celebrimbor had betrayed Sauron? The answer lies not only in history rewritten, but in the very essence of Tolkien's work. a delicate dance between light and shadow, hope and despair. If Celebrimbor had betrayed Sauron before the crafting of the One Ring, the fate of the Rings of Power would fundamentally change. The three, Vilya, Nenya, and Narya, were made independently of Anatar's direct guidance, and thus were unsullied by his malice. In our ultimate timeline, Celebrimbor could further isolate them from Sauron's influence, possibly by strengthening their attunement to the Valar, or placing them under the guardianship of powerful elves like Galadriel and Gil-galad earlier. Such an act would prevent Sauron from ever exerting control over the wielders of the three. The elven realms of Rivendell and Lothlorien might have become bastions of hope, even stronger than we know them today, untouched by the corruption of the One Ring. Imagine Rivendell's council halls gleaming with an aura of peace unbroken, or Lothlorien's golden woods impervious to shadow. Celebrimbor's betrayal would also ripple across the fortunes of Numenor, the island kingdom of men. Without Sauron's rings to corrupt mortal kings, the influence of Numenor might have remained untainted by the Dark Lord for far longer. The division between the faithful, who revered the Valar, and the kingsmen, who sought power and immortality, might never have escalated to civil strife. Consider the implications. Numenor's fleets could have aided Middle-earth in greater unity, shielding its shores from the tide of Sauron's armies. The eventual downfall of Numenor, catalyzed by Sauron's manipulation, might never have occurred, leaving the Westlands strengthened by an undivided Númenórean presence. The betrayal of Sauron by Celebrimbor would reverberate into the climactic events of the Second Age, the War of the Last Alliance. In our imagined scenario, Sauron's forces, deprived of the dominance afforded by the corrupted rings, would have been weakened in strength and coordination. The One Ring, never forged, would not lie at the heart of Sauron's being, binding his essence to Middle-earth. Without the One, Sauron's defeat might have been swifter, with fewer lives lost in the long siege of Barad-dûr. The alliance between elves and men, symbolized by the bond between Gil-galad and Elendil, might have stood not as a last-ditch effort against overwhelming darkness, but as a proactive strike that shattered the remnants of Morgoth's legacy for good. Beyond the battlefield, the deeper themes of Middle-earth's history resonate in this alternate vision. Celebrimbor's betrayal of Sauron would represent a triumph of wisdom over arrogance, a deviation from the patterns of pride that haunt the line of Feanor. Where Feanor's lust for the Silmarils led to unending strife, Celebrimbor's choice would affirm the possibility of growth and redemption, even within the bloodline most cursed by fate. Yet Tolkien's legendarium thrives on imperfection and struggle. Celebrimbor's tragic end and the devastation of Eregion echo the larger story of Ardamard, a world where beauty and ruin exist side by side. Had Celebrimbor succeeded in betraying Sauron early, Middle-earth might have seen a brighter dawn, but would it still carry the weight of its hard-won victories? Its fragile balance between despair and hope. We must not forget the price of Celebrimbor's defiance. Even in this alternate history, Sauron's wrath would fall upon Eregion. A preemptive betrayal might accelerate the Dark Lord's march, leaving Celebrimbor to face a faster and perhaps more furious assault. The likelihood of his survival remains slim, for Sauron, though deprived of the One Ring, still wields immense power. Would Celebrimbor's sacrifice, in this alternate timeline, still echo through the ages as a tale of courage and foresight? Or would it fade into obscurity, another footnote in the annals of the Second Age, overshadowed by greater battles to come? Celebrimbor's story is one of ambition, creativity, and the perilous line between trust and folly. His betrayal of Sauron, if it had occurred, would alter the tapestry of Middle-earth's history in ways both profound and subtle. Yet, as Tolkien often reminded us, the choices of even the most luminous figures are bound by the world's greater narrative, the music of the Ainur, in which discord is ultimately woven into harmony. So, dear listener, ponder this. Would a Celebrimbor who betrayed Sauron early truly free Middle-earth from shadow? Or does the beauty of Arda's history lie in the struggle itself, where even the darkest days give rise to the brightest stars?